and welcome to this edition of Olsem Wanem. On the program this evening, the importance of immunizing your child, a new vaccine for pneumonia, and the final segment of HIV and AIDS from the Department of Health. But first, here's a look at the White Ribbon Day commemoration held on Monday.
Every year on the 25th of November, the global community commemorates the elimination of violence against women. The White Ribbon Day, as it is formally called, is a day to remember those women whose lives were lost, women that are experiencing abuse now, and women who have endured violent lives in the past. Coalition for Change PNG held a special luncheon to honor the day and women who continue to silently suffer from violence.
One of our aims is also to spread our awareness and advocacy within the private sector. So we like to go in and give just general basic awareness talks about recognising what domestic violence is, the different types of abuse. We also like to recognise that we also like to give a talk on who they can call or how they can try and handle it as a workforce. We haven't completed it. The fight really isn't over. Doing a law doesn't necessarily mean that everything's now going to be all peaceful and calm, but it also today we asked for people to support us in the fight against domestic violence, and our target was getting the men to stand up and recognise, number one, there is a problem, and also to be a silence breaker. Break the silence, speak up, say something, and even better, be a man to say something. Today we had an extremely historical time when we had a number of CEOs, we had a number of leaders within the community and in the private sector stand up and swear an oath that they will no longer be silent about domestic violence.
Domestic and family violence and gender-based violence, you may have witnessed, have heard of it, read about it, and any efforts to stop this should be supported by all sectors of the society. The legislation passed this year, I think, has laid a foundation. What are we going to do about it? Is it going to be just another piece of legislation with good intent, but with no effect? Domestic or family violence is an abuse of power by a partner, ex-partner, or family member. And I think it takes many forms, including intimidation, control, isolation, emotional, physical, sexual, financial, and also spiritual abuse.
We want to see justice.
This year also marked a milestone for women in PNG when thousands of women took part in the National House Cry. The event brought together women and men from across the country and globally to push for tougher penalties and the implementation of existing legislation to protect women against violence.
Not just legislation, because we've got legislation after legislation after legislation, and yet where the rubber hits the road and when the citizen is violated or abused or killed, the perpetrators are still walking free out there. So that would be the crux of what the petition is going to hold, because we cannot stand by and not do anything anymore. We all have got to say enough is enough and stand up and do something. We cannot turn a blind eye to a violence that is happening next door or on the street, or walk past a woman that is raped. We must do something. Or as a mother or as a relative harbor a criminal, harbor a perpetrator, we must say no to violence and we must bring these people to justice.
It goes back to culture. The biggest problem that Papua New Guinea is having is that we are a blessed nation, and ever since the time that we got independence, because of the way that we got independence, it's both a curse and a blessing, because it created this culture of complacency. And because of the complacency that we have, many people started taking for granted a lot of the things that are happening, and the battle that we have is against perception. And this perception has been built up by the cultural norms, the cultural beliefs that we have that stem from the kind of principles and values, and through that it became our action. And because it's become such a norm, they've numbed their conscience as like on violence against women. You know, it's not a good thing.
It's male dominated, and so what I think, like the government and mostly people that are aware of the situation, they should, you know, educate women that are suppressed and they're not exposed to the information that they are needed, and especially to do with their rights and responsibilities as women.
This is not a new thing. Our women and children have suffered continuously. Women are equal partners in the development of our country. They should not be treated as inferior beings in our country. They should be treated equal to men. It is about time government and opposition must stand united to protect and to safeguard our women and children of our country.
Like Gordon's Market, we have a lot of violence in that area where women become victims. Sometimes you hear where women are packed, raped around the market area, or even in the buses traveling around that way. Yeah, violence is on the rise, and you and I, and especially the men out there, need to stand up and do something about stopping violence. Because Papua New Guinea, we are peace-loving people and we are a Christian nation. Why do we have violence? Because men do not respect women, that is why. And if we train up our child while they are young to respect women, I think we will not have a lot of violence problems, yeah.
And more man making this like something. You know, all big dog or kind of mama karemola, mama karemo, papa karemo. So time all come lo making this la kind passing lol Mary. And all got sister blol, all got mama blol, all got Mary blol la, all come out lo Mary. Okay. Yes, you can introduce him this like a bit of punishment because all make him wrong. And you may get a bella, lo this like kind passing, but then you may look go back again. Because this like when Harry come up, then by go back again, lo family unit now. We have family, you know, sit down good, early stage where man and Mary all sit down good, lo family life, lo inside, lo family. You know, you looking result by come up, lo picking in a man or picking in a Mary, yeah. Time of grow up, become on top long in. This like something can bagrab in tintim long or come out, or grow up, become long or adapt him this life.
And we're also pressing for services to be provided because we don't have services for such people. So we have established with health department family support centers where women and children can go for treatment. And we have, and also first aid counseling is given there. We also have worked with the police, and family sexual violence units have been established at police stations, and they're still rolling them out. We're working with police also to make sure that trainings are included into police college, as we're also doing with health department, that everybody living. So in looking at services, we're working on getting safe houses.
So, as educated people, we need to be more aware of the circumstances and the consequences it brings upon our Papua New Guinean women. So I've decided to come, and of course our company, Olsem Limited, is a very, very keen employer which advocates on gender equality within the company. So yeah, within our company, they encourage us the anti-discrimination against women and everything. Yes.
My advice would be, think of your sister or your sister or your daughter if it was that somebody else is building up.
This is Olsem Wanem. Immunization is the key to having a healthy lifestyle, and indeed for all children being immunized, it is a must as it acts as a barrier against all sorts of bacteria and parasites that cause malaria, pneumonia, measles and other curable illnesses.
The Port Moresby General Hospital Pediatric Unit encompasses the Well Baby Clinic, the Children's Outpatient and the Children's Ward 2A and 2B. Each section plays an integral part of the health of children, and it all begins with being immunized as a baby.
Well baby name well baby emeti tok save pinis Olsem. Mibla inus are looking all sick pikini. Mibla looking all healthy baby. Time mama I carry me come in up 5 years. He got some placenta AIDS where me plus I give him all baby suit behind by me explaining good lo display. And me plus I give him all live vaccines long pass him all long kind sick. Clinic Blumipla, emis have operate from Monday to Friday, 8 to 3, because 3 to 4 emi plus ready long next days nipla babies babipla looking solo 8 to 3 mi plus looking all babies from Monday to Friday. Na Monday and busy day blo mi plus 3. Mi plus looking pikini o se 130 to 40 lo one pla day lo Monday. Na Thursdays and very busy days too, mi plus are looking more than 100. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, normally 60 to 80 babies a day mi plus are looking. So I'm busy straight. But we talk also, mi plus are looking also 400 to 500 babies a week.
There are a number of vaccines that a child must receive from birth until the age of 1 year old, and they are Vaccine 1, when baby is 24 hours old, BCG to protect against TB, leprosy and hepatitis. At 1 to 3 months, pentavalent has a 5-in-1 combination and is given by injection to protect against polio. At 6 months, the first measles vaccine. This includes an oral drop of vitamin A and an injection that protects the eyesight. And again at 9 months, the second measles vaccine. This includes an oral drop of vitamin A and an injection that protects the eyesight as well as measles. At 1 year old, the last vaccine is another oral drop of vitamin A to fully protect the child's eyesight from color blindness.
So you ba looking most time pikini inside lo one player and should finish him all get all baby suit belong him. No like him osem. Mama emba got bail after 6 months because emba no got time lo look out him narapla pikini. Emba no not make him time long him available lo pikini by complete him display immunization blame. Lo disla now. Family planning him come in very important. So mama straight after him delivering baby. Mibla tu sa market him all disla something family planning to start. You need looks in family planning so that you must have lo good la health na you must kaike good na look out him this la baby blow you and must come lo clinic every time as schedule lo finish him schedule blame so you in family planning now you know that you know got narapla baby on the way so you free lo focus na look lo one la pigini ta so long importance lo immunization lo health lo you mama yet lo family as a whole so family planning aims are come in.
Family planning is also an important aspect of the clinic. The nursing staff encourage mothers to take up family planning so that they remain focused and are healthy enough to cater for their baby. The Children's Outpatient Department caters for most sick children, including babies, and in recent times there has been an increase in pneumonia and malaria, as well as TB meningitis. Serious cases of these preventable illnesses are kept in observation ward, and if they don't improve, they are then transferred to pediatric ward 2A.
We receive children who are very sick and need to be admitted via children's outpatient, and they come here to be admitted mainly on the diagnosis that I've mentioned, and excluding TB or malnutrition, diarrhea, they go up to the other pediatric ward on the first floor, and they are admitted and put on the bed. Very sick ones, they are put on the front, very acute sick bay in the front, which has oxygen humidifier attached to the side, whereas those children who come in and they're not very sick, we put them at the back recovery bay. The three most common diseases that children suffer most is pneumonia, with chest infection. So when they are exposed to dust, and then of course children can cough, so their lungs have been congested by mucus or air, so they develop SOTWIN or SOB. Then they're unlikely to breathe themselves. Is malaria, when they're having high fever, and children sometimes they will not talk or say, "Mom, I'm having fever." So they keep to themselves. They refuse to do normal activities like playing around or eating. And then when mom feels the body temperature in the house, or sometimes it's too late, so they begin to feed and they are rushed to the children's outpatient. Another common illness that is admitted is meningitis. We have inflammation of the meninges of the brain, and sometimes they come in fitting, or sometimes they cry, unexpected cry, and just tighten their limbs. Sometimes they do not improve on normal antibiotics. So when they come here and investigation is done on lumbar puncture, a needle is put at the back of the spine to check what virus or bacteria it is. Yeah. So when they do not complete, then we have seen quite some of them that they miss immunization during birth or 1 month, and then they have developed other illnesses or TB or while they're growing up. And when we check their birth baby card, they have not been, or parents have not been faithful bringing them to the clinic to give their treatment.
This is Olsem Wanem. In our health segment this week, we spoke to the Deputy Secretary of the Health Department to deliberate on the government's plans in combating the HIV and AIDS nemesis in the country.
HIV/AIDS has been a serious concern in PNG since its first case in 1987. Back then, little was known about the epidemic. There was a lot of misinformation, misconception, and discrimination.
Since that first case, we've come a long way. In 2004, PNG was labeled as having a generalized HIV/AIDS epidemic because the estimated prevalence at the time was above 1%. In some of those years, the thinking was even up to as high as 2%. Now, what it means with these figures of having a HIV/AIDS prevalence of 1% and having a generalized epidemic means that the general population was affected from these figures that we had, which means that every one of us, right up to the population in the community, affected, or in, that's what it meant in terms of the HIV prevalence. But the challenge of those figures was that the prevalence rate or the data that was used was mainly those in the urban settings. So it was like taken from data from the pregnant mothers as they went through to the clinics in Port Moresby, Lae, Goroka, and Mount Hagen.
The delivery of health services in PNG remains a challenge in the fight against HIV/AIDS. The good news is HIV testing has now been extended to rural areas.
Today we have about testing sites close to about 200 or so, and the figures and the data has changed, if you like. And so today our estimates using those data.
With more people being tested for HIV, the HIV/AIDS treatment has now become more available to those who need it, thus having an impact on the HIV/AIDS death rate.
The good message, those on antiretroviral treatment, is this, that the death rate has reduced to more than 70%. That's a dramatic drop. When the years when I was practicing as a doctor, that would be about like almost 10 years ago, in the settings where we were looking after people living with HIV/AIDS, there was no treatment. But we've come a long way, and to cut down the death rate to more than 70% is a huge gain for us.
In June this year, 21,500 people were registered as HIV positive, and over 70% are on HIV treatment.
This brings in a very important point that HIV/AIDS is no longer a death sentence, and people can live longer and live healthier lives, just like those with high blood pressure, diabetes, and asthma, and all those kind of conditions. We can manage, we can deal with that. But of course, the challenge is that they will have to live with these medicines for life, which is and that's what happens with high blood pressure patients, diabetic patients as well, asthma patients, those who have that. So it's like a chronic illness now. National HIV/AIDS strategy, which is the overarching strategy that underpins how we respond to HIV/AIDS. The biggest part of that strategy is on prevention, and prevention in all its different forms. So as you would know, one of the biggest approaches that has been taken on board by the response to HIV/AIDS is on the condom distribution, to deal with that. That's a huge part of the approach and program, but that's not the only approach. There are many other ways how this could be done, and there's been work that's done through many different partners, including research agencies like Institute of Medical Research. They've done a lot of work to look at the socio-economic or biobehavioral aspects of this issue of HIV/AIDS, and through that we get in evidence that's translating into policy. So we've come a long way, and this reflects the strong policy direction and effective partnerships with our development partners and other key stakeholders in addressing the HIV/AIDS epidemic in this country.
That's all we have time for in this episode. The Olsem Wanem team would like to thank the management and staff of the Port Moresby General Hospital, Coalition for Change, and the National Department of Health for their time and assistance with these stories. Don't forget, you can comment or make positive suggestions to the address on your screen, or visit us on our Facebook page. Until then, enjoy the rest of your viewing here on MTV.